Good evening, everyone. So, my name is Emmanuel, like Prosper said. So, I'm a designer. I design digital products, websites, apps, and also for brands. And at the moment, I'm working on Dora, which is a delivery automation platform for business owners, while also trying to build or building a design agency with my friend Ubong, and also trying to improve my skill sets as a designer to provide more value to my customers. So today we'll be talking about responsive design. So basically I'll be giving you a simple guide and approaches to designing for multiple screens. So first of all, let's talk about what responsive design is. Right. So responsive design is basically an approach that suggests that design and development should respond to the user's behavior and environment based on screen size, platform, and orientation. So what this means is that depending on the size, the screen sizes that your users are using, so the design should actually adapt for that thing. So if you're working on tablets, if your users are working on tablets, so whatever content you have your design, whatever your design is, it should be optimized for tablets. And then if it's mobile, it should be optimized for mobile. Now, so because there have been a lot of misconceptions around responsive design, meaning that some people think responsive design means the way it looks like on desktop simply means it must look like that on tablet and also look like that on mobile. But it's actually very, very difficult to do that kind of design because times have changed. We are no longer in a situation where we have only one mobile device with just one screen size. We now have iPhone with different screen sizes. I now have Android coming up with their own different screen sizes too as well. Now you have computers too as well. Tablets, so with all different kind of size. You see some at 768 pixels, you see some larger than that. So as designers, we are now tasked to design for all these kind of screens. So how do you now do all these kind of things to make sure that our design fits perfectly, pixel perfect for all screens? So it's quite difficult. That's why in order
Hello,
to tackle, yeah,
can you hear me, Emmanuel? Sorry,
yes, I can.
the chat box, they are saying you are really fast. Maybe you should slow down your pace so that they can really grasp what you're
Okay.
saying. Just always
Which
look at the chat box too, so that you would
so which
be.
part didn't you guys grab?
I
So
think they grasp everything. The thing is about the speed.
okay, okay. Basically, I'm not sharing. Yes, I'm not sharing my screen yet. I know that. What I'll be showing you isn't basically what I'm saying, but what I'm going to explain to you. Right. So that's why it would be advisable if you had a pen and paper to note things down, and maybe I'll go a little bit slower so you guys can take note of things. I don't know if that is okay with you. Okay, from the beginning, you said you couldn't get the definition of responsive screen. So, okay, I'll start from the beginning again. I said responsive design is an approach that suggests design and development should respond to users' behavior and environment based on screen size, platform, and orientation. So what I'm trying to say is that you're going to be designing and developing a website using grids, images, and typography that adjust to the size of any screen, right? That's exactly what I'm saying. So whatever design you have, probably you have content on this website, whatever you have there should be adjustable for different kind of screens that people are going to be using. That's what exactly responsive design is. So I was trying to say that people think responsive design means the way it looks on desktop is going to be the same way it's going to look on mobile. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. So basically, the affordances we have on mobile, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the terms affordances. Affordances simply means relationships between the user and uh the device your they are interacting with. So basically, for a mobile device, affordances could mean yeah, it's scrolling. So because a mobile device has a screen there and it affords scrolling. So basically, these are the interactions that can work there. Also tap into. So these are affordances. Now, if you're working on desktop, a lot of desktop don't afford tapping where you can screen touch and everything. Most desktops don't, some do. And also the same thing for tablets, because on desktop you have things like hover because you're using your mouse, right? You're using your mouse, so you're affording clicking and all those kind and dragging, holding certain buttons there. So you can afford hovering on certain content, but in a case where you're just using your finger, the relationship between you and the device is just your finger interacting with those things. You don't afford like things like hover actions. So it's just tapping and everything. So there are so many other things you can't do on desktop that you can do on mobile. So those are what I mean by affordances. So back to the main point. So what I'm saying about responsive design here is, so I'm going to share my screen now. So I'll give you an example of what I mean, that just because it looks like this on mobile doesn't mean it should look the same exact way on desktop. So just tell me if you can see my screen. Yep. Just a second. So can you see my screen? Yeah, so if you can see my screen, please, you can unmute yourself and just say yes. It will be easier. Oh,
Yes, we can see your screen. They can't unmute themselves because it will cost a lot of noise, but I can see your screen.
okay, yeah. So this is stripe.com, right? So right now, what you're seeing here is me taking it down to the code part to show you how things work from desktop to mobile, right? So this is stripe.com. Now, looking at Stripe screen now, this is the desktop evidently now. I told you responsive design does not mean the same way it looks here, doesn't mean it must look that same way on other devices. It simply means the contents you have here has to adjust for that particular device. So if I take this down to Stripe for mobile, and you see how it looks like. Now you can notice these things are adjusting here. Now mobile usually starts around 375 pixels. So I'll just take this down to 375 here. I think that's not 375. Okay. Just a second. Yeah, so this is Stripe on mobile phones. You notice something, the image we are seeing here at the side is no longer there. On some websites, you always find them putting the image there because they want to.
Is it just me or can someone else still hear what Emmanuel is saying? Because I can't hear him anymore. Or is it my network? Okay, so I think Mr. Emmanuel is having a little bit of a network issue. Yeah, because he has just been logged out. So we'll give him some time to come back. It's sad that we currently have network issues today, almost everywhere, even on my own end. So yeah, don't worry, we'll get Starlink for everybody very soon. So I've contacted him and he's coming back. So let's be patient, please. I know you can't hear anything. Nobody is saying anything. I just like the enthusiasm that some of us show in these sessions where we start complaining. I can't hear anything. I can't. Nobody is actually saying anything. But then it shows that we are all interested in learning and want to get the best out of the program. So I really appreciate everyone for what they are doing and their efforts. Please don't miss tomorrow's town hall session if you're here. The time is still 10 a.m. And even if you don't get the reminders, always know that it is going to hold and it must hold. Except it is not going to hold, you will then be informed. But town hall is holding tomorrow by 10 a.m. Do your best to be available for town hall session tomorrow. Just 1 hour and we are out of here. So yeah. So Emmanuel is back and I'll move on. We'll start our class too, yeah. So Emmanuel, you can go ahead and continue from where you stopped. You were showing us the Stripe website, trying to relate to us what you were saying about screens not looking the same when they are on desktop or and when they're on mobile. Yeah, so over to you, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, if you can hear me, unmute yourself and go on because we're waiting for you. The floor is yours. I'm seeing requests to reschedule the class. We can't reschedule classes right now. We can't afford to. If you reschedule the class right now, it means you want to spend an extra week in upskill. So please, we can't afford to reschedule classes. We have what we're working with a timetable, and we know network is bad, but then we have to accommodate all of this. So we're in Nigeria. Don't worry. Like I promised, we get Starlink for everybody. Some governments have already started making moves to provide Starlink at public places. So we are hoping that they finally do it. When they provide Starlink for us, maybe all of us will gather there and do our thing. Maybe then we might not even have to do upskill remote again. Maybe all of us will just come to the starting point and see ourselves and just have to teach like that. So Emmanuel is back, and we would let him start now. So
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I had network issue and then the audio wasn't working well. So yeah, I saw some messages too as well, and you guys aren't understanding what is going on. Yeah, thank you for the info. So okay. Of course, I can do a recap before I proceed. So initially, I was talking about responsive design, and of course, you guys should calm down. And I know it's going to be tough at first to understand this thing I'm saying, but there are actually a lot that we have to cover for you to actually get the main point. But I was saying yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't know why my Wi-Fi keeps disconnecting me every single time. So I don't know if it's the weather issue. I'm sorry for you guys. So back to what I was saying. Can you guys hear me clearly? Is my voice breaking? Because this is actually a slower network. I had to switch network. Okay. Okay, then. So I was saying responsive design is designing a website and app for different screen sizes, right? And I mean designing those things to adjust to different screen sizes. I don't mean for it to look the same on all screen sizes. So that's not what responsive design is, because people have taken head responsive design and they feel like if you design something on tablet on laptop, that it should look exactly the same on tablet and mobile. But the truth is, it's impossible for everything for it to look exactly the same on tablet and mobile, because we have certain constraints like type sizes and everything, and images and all this kind of, and also click targets. So like your buttons, the sizes of how this button should be when clickable. So it's impossible for us to do everything should look the same. However, what we can do is to make sure our content, whatever content is on desktop, adjusts perfectly well on tablets and also on mobile. And that is what responsive design is. And I was showing you what it means for these things to adjust. You might need to take out some things. There are some strategies that we actually do use to make sure things adjust perfectly well, right? And basically, there are two approaches to responsive design. One is the adaptive design, and two is the free design, right? So at this point, hope you guys understand what I've said, or do you still need that recap? No. Okay, no problem. I said there are two approaches to responsive design. One is adaptive design, and the other is fluid design. Fluid, like fluid, Fluid, fluid design. I am not sharing screen yet. I will show you, and when I'm sharing screen, it will be for the content itself. So yeah, thank you. So now basically what adaptive design means is that you're going to create multiple versions of a website optimized for specific screen sizes, and I'm going to explain this. And fluid design simply means flexible elements. That means they adjust proportionally according to the screen size. So now I will show you this with the example I showed before, which was Stripe. We're going to be looking at real life sites instead of me showing you screen. So because mostly what I'll be showing you are real life sites where these things have been done, how they did it there. So because you're basically designing for webs and UI. So I think, yeah, it's this one. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so initially, so can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. You can go ahead.
Yeah, so now this is stripe.com. I remember I said adaptive design and fluid design, where fluid is flexible elements and they are resizing proportionally. Now, if I start adjusting this screen here, this is a screen, this is for mobile here. If I start adjusting it to desktop, because desktop ranges from 768 to like 1120 or so. So if I start adjusting this thing now, you will notice something. What's happening? This text size, this text, all these things here, they are resizing. They are actually, the width of the text is actually adjusting proportionally to the size of the screen. So the size is around 484. Now, if I take it down back, it's also resized proportionally. You can see the number of rows increases. But if I'm increasing it in size now, these things are what adjusting. And also not just this, so also the size of the headline too, the text is increasing in size. This is what it means for something to be fluid. So this is fluid design. So you mostly see fluid design on mobile and also like smaller screens, because when it comes to larger screens, it's very, very, very hard to implement because you have a lot of space around it. So you always want to switch to adaptive design there. So now let's just keep increasing. Now you can see this now is still fluid. However, they've switched to a different layout here. And I'm going to explain why they did this. So now you have this same thing, still being fluid, still being fluid, still being fluid. Now we're already getting to laptop sizes now. And now we'll look at this now. Notice what is happening. This thing is no longer being fluid anymore. It's now being fixed at a particular point. It's staying here. So no matter what I do, if I increase this size whatever it is, nothing is going to change with it. So now this is what you call adaptive design. This is why I said you have to design specific elements to look in specific way for different screen sizes. So this adaptive design, another name for adaptive design is called fixed layout, right? So basically you have it this way. So no matter what screen this will be on, it will always look like this, right? And then when you put it on this on under screen side, under screen, it always look like this. But why are they not doing this on tablets and on mobile? That's because this thing called adaptive design is very, very, very hard to set up. And this was actually what was done in the past until fluid design came up, right? And which is what you guys will know now as auto layout, and what the devs should know as Flexbox, right? So in the past, it was adaptive design, and basically you have to start making this thing fit perfectly well on different screen sizes. That means you have to design this particular thing on different screen sizes. And at that time, it was cool because there were only like 2 or 3 very, very few. Wow. Okay. 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 Is there anybody that doesn't understand anything now? And what part didn't they understand? You can unmute your mic and say something if you can.
So what I'll do is, please, if you have a question to ask, um, you can just raise your hand, and I would ask you to unmute. So, okay, or you can drop it on the chat box. One person says, recap adaptive approach. I think the only question here is someone is saying recap adaptive approach. For Chia Mama, I think it's a network issue. She said 8 minutes, but I could hear you all through the 8 minutes. So you could just go ahead and just recap adaptive approach where you
So,
were talking about. Yeah, thank you.
okay. So I was talking about adaptive design. You can see the screen, right? So I said for adaptive design, that term for it is called fixed layout, right? So while I was explaining fluid, I said the content, the elements adjust completely to the according to the screen size, right? But for adaptive layouts, you just have it fixed one particular way, and then before when you now get to a different screen, you now have to make specific adjustment again too as well. Now in this case, they have it adaptive, meaning that it was fixed. When I say adaptive, I mean fixed, meaning that it's not changing, nothing is adjusting at all. You will not just look at the screen and you look and you notice that as I'm increasing the size of the screen, nothing is adjusting at all. It's still looking the same way. And that's what it means for something to adapt that way. For you to say something as an so no, it is not only text that adjusts based on fluid design. What adjusts on fluid design is also I told you you need three things when it comes to designing responsive website or apps, which is the grid, imagery, and typography. So what you mostly see here are just the grid. For what you mostly see that are just in here are the typography. But then if you scroll further, you notice that images are also adjusting too as well. They are scaling up or down depending on how large the screen is. They scale up. And also, like I said, the grid, responsive grid too as well will also change too as well. But when we start doing the practical class, I'll show you how to set up things like this for your design. How you work with responsive grid, how you also work with responsive images, and also responsive type skills too as well. So, but back to the main course of action, which is adaptive design. So, like I said, it's remaining fixed. The size of the image, nothing is adjusting here. If you look at it carefully, nothing is adjusting. The text size, yeah, sure. So the text size will not adjust. Images don't adjust. They just left it that with a fixed size, no matter the screen you get to, right? So now this, I said this was working fine in the past because we have fewer screen sizes at that time. So you could do this, you could just design this way once, and then you can use it for different screens because we didn't have much screens. But as we're going to add more screens, we had to find a way to adjust to make sure content fits specific sizes, screen size, and that's where fluid design comes in, right? So that's the difference between adaptive and fluid design. I said fluid design mostly works better on smaller screens, while adaptive design for larger screens. Yeah, so that's basically that for adaptive design and responsive design here. So now I want to introduce to a concept called breakpoint because I was talking about screen sizes and can you please pause the chat a little bit? I was talking about screen sizes and how you design for specific screen sizes. Now, in design, basically you won't be saying things like I designed for this particular screen size because if you look at screen size now, there are various screen sizes. So you start designing for all screen sizes in the world. No, probably not. So what you do is that you design for specific breakpoints, meaning that across all devices, there are specific screen sizes that are popular, and those popular screen sizes, that's common screen sizes, are called breakpoints. Now for mobile, you have breakpoints like 375, right? For tablet, you have a breakpoint like 768. So these are like screens are actually tablet screen sizes. And for desktop, you have things like 1520 or 1600 or 1920. So these are breakpoints you design for when you want to start designing for screen sizes. And so, to give you a proper concept for screen size, just a second. I would like to take you through Bootstrap documentation on breakpoints on which screen size you do design for, because like I said, you can't design for all screen sizes. So you have to design for specific one, and then those ones will help you adjust for other screen sizes. So for example, for mobile, you have mobile phones with different screen sizes, but you design for a specific breakpoint on mobile, and then that should work for all mobile devices. And then for desktop or for tablet, you design for a specific breakpoint for tablet. That should work for all tablet devices. And also for desktop, design for a specific breakpoint on desktop, and it should work for all desktop too, at least most of it. So let's get to Bootstrap here. So yeah. So this is Bootstrap documentation on breakpoints, right? Now it says here, if you look at on the left hand side, it says small, medium, large, extra large, and countless research. These are not random things here. This was actually done after countless research, and they figured out that these are like popular sizes that most people use for their devices and everything. Most companies produce for their devices. So now you have, first you're seeing extra small with a dimension of less than 576 pixels. So these things are resolutions. And you have small, greater than 576 pixels, right? Then you have medium, 5768 pixels. You have large, 992 pixels. And you have extra large, 1200 pixels. Now, from 992 to 576, this is a range for tablets, right? This is a range for tablet devices. Now, for anything less than 576, that is the range for mobile devices. Anything less than 576 is the range for mobile devices. And then for anything greater than 1200, that is the range for desktop devices. So basically, when you want to design, or when you want to, if let's say you can start with 1400 here. Then you do this. When you do that, then you design for the next breakpoint, which is 1200, and then you go again and do the design for 992, and again for 768 and 576, and so on and so forth. However, of course, this is tiring. This is for Bootstrap. Of course, other design systems like Material Design and Apple UI, they actually have lesser breakpoints. I think Material Design have just 3 or 4 breakpoints you need to design for, and it works for everything. Apple have the same amount too as well, and it works for all their iPhone devices as well. I think 3 too as well. So you can pick whatever breakpoints you want to use. However, this I won't say is the best approach to designing for multiple devices, especially using breakpoint like this, where you pick based on what these systems tell you. So if you want to do a proper responsive design based on your breakpoints, I will advise you to do that according to your content. You test it yourself. Now, a lot of companies don't use these breakpoints that they specify. They actually design based on content. And this was what I explained earlier, was making sure content adapt to specific screen. So don't look at this and say, this is actually a good starting point for you, but don't look at this and say, okay, I want to design tablets or desktop. I want to design desktop at 1400, then design tablet at 768. No, you have to test it yourself and check where will this thing break, where will this thing get to, and it won't look good anymore. Then we know that we need to start changing this here. So let me show you that again. Back on this stripe here. Back on this stripe here. So if you notice, remember the one we had was 1400 and so on 200. So if we are looking at stripe here, this is around 1400, right? And if I take it down to 1200, what is happening? We are still using the same design here, meaning that they didn't design for this particular breakpoint. That's what I'm saying, because their content allows the for this screen size, right? That's why I say it's best for you to test your own content so as well. So you don't have to go and take these system breakpoints. They are good starting points for you to start. But once you design one screen and you want to start trying out the other ones, you start testing your content. Where will this content get to where I know that okay, I need to switch to a different content style. I need to adjust the content for this particular screen. So you can see at 1200, it's still working well. Now, until we get to like 768, until we get to something around 768, then we start having issues with we start having the idea of these things, of this thing adjusting now. So you can see it's around 768. I remember we still had 992 as well. You can see it's a different way. The elements are now being fluid here for this. So it's not something you have to pick a fixed particular point for each and every one of them. So whatever content you design for, you have to, as the designer, make that decision that, okay, this is where it will change to. And this is where I know this will be better, right? Do you guys get that? Do you guys get that? If there's anything you don't get, before I move on, just make it clear so I can move to the next one. All right. No. So what don't you get, Prestige? What don't you get? No problem. What don't you get? Just ask. What don't you get? So basically, I said breakpoints are, instead of you saying I'm going to, because I told you responsive design is designing and making sure content adjusts for different screen sizes, right? Now, if you count the number of screen size or bring all the mobile devices in this world, you find out that every single device has different screen size. Every single, like, different mobile devices with different screen size. Bring all the laptops to different screen size. So you can't start designing for each and every screen or making sure that your content adjusts for each and every screen. That would be very, very tasking. So that is where the concept of breakpoints comes up. So breakpoints takes specific screen sizes, and then when you take that screen size, for example, like mobile, you take a specific screen size for mobile, and then you design for that one. And then you know that once you've done that properly, then you know that this particular design is going to work for all mobile devices, right? And of course, there are techniques that works with the idea of Flexbox. That's where it works well, because you know that the content automatically adjusts. You're not the one doing the adjustment; it's automatically doing it itself with Flexbox and photo layouts as well. So you know that this will automatically adjust for all mobile devices, and then you design for a specific breakpoint for tablets, and you know that this will work for all tablet devices from these sizes, from this size to this size. Once you've measured them yourself, and then you design for desktop, and you know that, yeah, this one will work for this particular screens and above. Just the same way I was showing you this when I said, just a second. So just the same way I showed you this 1400 screen size. Now they've designed for, let's say they started with 1400 as their breakpoint. They wanted now this is the one they designed with. Now people are using screen larger than 1400. Yeah, people are using screen larger than 1400. Okay, yeah, maybe let's say width, right? So let's say the width of your screen is 1400. Now people are using screens with widths larger than 1400, and let's say 1600. Now, do you have to now design, because you could also get in between 1400 and 1600, you could find 1500, you could also find 1520. So do you design for all these screen sizes between 1400 to 1600? No, but you could design for 1400 and do it in a way that it works for anything from 1400 upward. So now, if I'm adjusting this thing, let's say I say this was designed for 1400. If I'm adjusting this thing, notice what is happening. They didn't change the design here. They didn't do anything here. They designed this for 1400 and did it in a way that it will work for anything larger than 1400. So no matter how big this screen size is going to work for it. So if you're getting confused, don't worry. When we start doing the practical of these things, I think you get better insights. Yes, you only consider the width, not the height. You only consider the width, not the height, because it's scrollable. And so your height, the height of all those things can change. You only consider the width, not the height. So any other questions? I'm about to get to the next part of the content. And no, the height is not constant. So the height changes because it's scrollable. It's affords scrolling. So the height doesn't really matter. The height doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. So it's scrollable. So you don't consider for height. What you're looking at is width. Remember when I showed you Bootstrap? They only showed you for the height. They only showed you for the width. They don't tell you about the height and all those kind of stuff, because they know that height is always flexible, to always change. You don't have a fixed height. You don't have a fixed height. So it's always change. You only consider the width when you're designing. Because even when you're designing on Figma, you have to stretch, and you design your frame, you have to stretch that frame down for your content, for you to put more content there. So why are you now considering the height? There's no need for considering the height, just the width. Remember, the width will always remain constant too as well. So the height changes, is a variable. So any more questions? Uh, that is not a problem. Don't worry, you get a chance to redesign it. So are you guys satisfied? So let's move on. All right. Let's talk about the responsive design patterns that we have. So this is where you have to like really pay attention. And in case I'm moving too fast, you can also call my attention to as well. So yeah. So basically, what are responsive design patterns? So they are just common design solutions that we use to address specific design challenges when creating responsive websites. So, and basically, I've outlined design patterns in such a way that you understand it and it will be easier for you to grasp. So there are four responsive design patterns I use specifically when designing for multiple screen sizes. And one is review or hide, and the other is and the fourth is expand. Second
Manuel, can you hear me? Are you back and settled down?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, I was on mute. I didn't even notice. So can you guys hear me? Okay, sure. Okay, yes, the responsive design patterns. Okay, you didn't hear the list. That's exactly where we are. We haven't gone past responsive design patterns yet. I'm very, very sorry for that. The network is actually really bad here. Where I stay, the network is actually really bad. So I said there are 4 responsive patterns that I've outlined, and basically 4 patterns I use for designing for multiple screens, down from mobile to desktop and everything. I said the first one is reveal or hide. The second one is whatever. Say for the second one. The second one is you divide. The third one is expand, and the fourth one is reflow. So, can you hear me? Did you hear that now? So, reveal or hide, expand, reflow, and divide. So, I'm going to explain how I use these patterns and mobile devices. So, now let's start with reveal or hide, right? Now let's start with this navigation here. To start with the navigation here, you've noticed you have this content here. Now, if you're designing for desktop and tablets, this is fine because you have enough space to accommodate this navigation, right? Now, but when you now move to mobile, where the screen is smaller, you get to do what you now have to find a place to place to put all these things, and in a lot of cases you hide them, right? And you're usually hiding them in what a side menu or something. So this doesn't just work for navigation. In some cases too as well, where you have so many options, so many data to put on your screen, and realize on mobile these things are too much. You need to adjust this content for this particular screen. You have to hide certain content. So that's the idea of hiding. Now, if you're designing mobile first, meaning that the first screen you're going to design for is going to be mobile first, then when you're now getting to desktop, you review those hidden items. So maybe let's say you have lots of items that you hid in like different options. If you're going on desktop, you don't hide those things anymore. Why? Because you have so many options there now to fill, and you don't hide those things anymore. So now the second pattern is, like I said, reflow. Basically, what this means is that now the same way you have desktop, you have this here on mobile. Let's start with mobile now. You have this now on mobile. So how would you take this mobile from mobile to desktop? How will you take this from mobile to desktop? So basically, you reflow the content. What that means is that some things will have to move from one column to 2 or 3 columns, right? So that's basically what reflow is. Now, and some things will have to be taken out completely from this page entirely. So, and also, and some things will also have to be hidden too. Some things will be moved to a separate page, because if you're familiar with information architecture, now the information architecture you have for desktop will not be or the sitemap you have for desktop will not, or flow you have for desktop will not be the same you have for mobile, because mobile things are optimized there. Now, but for desktop, you have a lot of space. That means some certain things will be reviewed instantly. But for mobile, there are a lot of times where contents here you have to click and go to a different page entirely. Things like also navigation. So there are so many navigations that don't use a drop down like this one use. They actually they actually bring a separate page for you. You just don't notice it. You think it's like you think it's just like an overlay or something like that, but that's actually a separate page where they put the nav and then with animation and everything, they make it feel like it's just overlaying on the other page. So I said some of them, like I said, you reflow, and when you're reflowing, the ideas in reflow is basically one to switch from a single column, from a single row to what, multiple columns. Like you have here, you have 2 columns here, and then if you go to desktop mobile, you have just 1 row there, and everything is just stacked below them for mobile. And if you're taking it back, you just stack them. You take, if I'm going back, let's say to something like this is a tablet view, a smaller screen. You can see they switch from 3 columns to 2 columns here. So they've reduced, they've reflown, I said they've reflown, they've reflowed the content down to what fits this particular screen. I don't know if you got that. No, designers don't need CSS. So now the other one, like I said, is divide. Now, what I mean by divide is that now in cases where you can't reflow content, right? For example, let's look at just a second. I need Mark, I think. How do I think it's tab. Yep. Yeah. No, this. I think this should be Bootstrap. Okay, let's just go with Bootstrap. So let's take, for instance, this is Bootstrap, and I'm just going to open the CSS code for you to take a look at this now. Now you have a case of division here, right? Now, normally they would have placed the navigation in some kind of nav or toolbar somewhere around here. Yeah. So they actually placed it here, like a drop down here, hidden. Now, in some cases where you can't do anything like reflow or anything there, what you do here is you divide your page, right? You give one part to it. So you will notice this thing mostly on tablets. You won't see it a lot of it. You won't like it will catch your eyes on desktop, but on tablet you will notice it a lot. There, navigations are being divided on the page. So you have one little part for the navigation, and then the content takes up the whole screen. And that's basically what the divide is all about. And then you have expand. So now expand is quite complex because now expand has to do with containers. And what I mean by containers, I mean surfaces. So you notice situations where you have let's take for instance Stripe. Oh no, Stripe might not be perfect. Now let's take for instance Microsoft now. And so I'll switch to mobile straight up. Now this is Microsoft on mobile. Now, if you notice, most of the content that were initially here have been taken out completely. This is where you talk about reflowing, because they found it was probably too much. And most of them, I think they were even placed in a different tab, in a different page where you just click and go through it. Now if I keep on expanding this, now you're getting most of those contents too now out. Just a second. I think I have. Yeah, okay, yeah. Back to the same place. So now this is mobile. Sorry about that. This is mobile here. This is mobile here. Now, if I'm to take this out, and I talked about expand, what I'm trying to show you is the expand where you have to put things into containers. Now, they get to this particular point. Now, this, you see this white box here is called a container. And you will notice this thing when you're doing signups and everything. And if you're, especially if you're using a corporate website or platform, where you notice on mobile phones, your sign up is on a plain white background. But when you start getting to larger screen, you find them putting it in a box, right? So those things are containers, right? And containers have three things to it. It has it could either have a maximum width, a maximum width, an infinite width, or a snap width. So width, I mean width. So basically this now, for example, for this, let's start with this now. This basically was not on a container. Now, as they kept on increasing it, they had to place it on what? A container. Now, this container at the moment has an infinite width, because what I mean by infinite is because it's expanding as the screen size or the screen width is expanding. So now, but when it gets to a point, it reaches its maximum width, meaning that if you get to one particular point, it won't expand anymore. I think I'm clicking certain things here. So once it gets to a point, it won't expand anymore, meaning that it has reached its maximum width, and that's the point of containers. So in case you're designing you're having a design where on mobile, you notice that this thing is too small for it to fit those large screen, and it's not a matter of adaptive or fluid, right? You put those things inside a box, a container, and then set it offset it on the background, right? The same way they did it here. Now, as they keep on increasing screen size, you notice there's a completely different change. This is a reflow content. So they have to use a different layout completely and just put it by the side and have the image there. So as well. I don't know if you got that. Please, do you understand what I just said? Okay. No. Wow. No. I'm sorry if this class is quite advanced for you guys, but the truth is, as designers, you should at least be able to know this much about what you're doing. If you really want to understand how to design specifically for multiple screens. The truth is, normally you might not get you won't people won't share, most designers won't share to even this level. Most designers don't even know to this level that this is what you're supposed to know. They just leave it up to developers to build this design for you without telling them that, oh, at this particular size is going to be this way, and so on and so forth, right? And then when your design start looking bad, you start blaming the developer. But the truth is that it is your fault, because you didn't design for that and you didn't even know that this is what it's supposed to be like, right? So as a designer, you have to know all these things. So I'm really sorry if your head is blowing. Just take it easy. Don't worry. After this session, when we start the practical, you'll find it a lot more easier to understand this thing. But it's just, I think these are just theoretical sessions, right? It's just for you to have an idea of this is what is going to be happening when you're designing, when you're trying to design for this kind of screens, right? So that when your design start looking bad, you can easily pinpoint where it went bad and not leave it up to the developers to figure it out because they don't know design. So now we've talked about responsive design. There are still some things you need to understand. For example, when it comes to imagery, responsive imagery. I remember someone asked a question: is it just the text that resizes? No, the images will also scale to that. And there is something called aspect ratio when it comes to images, right? So just in case you're the kind of person that usually draw box and put any image size and just leave it there and leave it like that, and you say and you say, I've done the design. That is actually wrong. You have to learn to put your images in aspect ratios. So for example, for like hero sizes now, you use for hero sizes, you should note this down. For hero sizes, a 16:9 aspect ratio is perfectly fine. For things like profile image, for example, this particular image here is definitely a 3:2 aspect ratio being used here. This is most likely a 4:3 aspect ratio being used here. So there are some popular aspect ratios being used on websites and across mobile devices and every other thing. So the one, I'll just give you the popular ones. 1:1 aspect ratio. Then you have 1:1 aspect ratio is perfect for images, things like profile images. And if you notice your profile picture, those circle profile pictures, they're actually in an aspect ratio of 1:1, meaning that the width and the height are equal, 1:1. That's what the aspect ratio is. That's so 1 for the width, that's the first one, and then 2:1 for the height, that's 1:1 for the height. And if it's a 3:2, that means 3 for the width and 2 for the height. You could also reverse it and say 2:3, which is 2 for the width and 3 for the height. So these things are actually perfect for images too, as well, profile images as well. Videos. So 3:2 perfect for videos, 4:3 perfect for videos too as well. 16:9 perfect for videos and hero images. And so these are like popular aspect ratios. You also have a 2:1 perfect for profile pictures too as well. And you could use, those are specific. So whenever you're designing anything, and for example, you have a width of 16, like a profile image of, this is for images, profile image or an image of 16 with 16 pixels width, 16 pixels width, then you want to put this in an aspect ratio of what, 1:1. That means the width will be 16 and the height will be 16. Now, if you want to put this in an aspect ratio of 2:1, right, you do a simple math, very simple. So basically, you say 2 times the width of 16, which is what 32, and then you have 1 of 2, that is half. That means the width of that thing, of the image, will be 32 and the height will be what, 16. And then if you're going to do the aspect ratio of what, of 3:2, you do the same simple math where you say 3 times let's say the original image size is 16 by 16, right? So you say 3 times 16 and 2 times 16, and you get your aspect ratio of 16. Now if you get the same thing as 16:9, you do 16 times this particular original image size and 9 by this, and that's how you get the aspect ratio of this thing. Now, why this is important is that when developers, because I told you responsive design is not just for designers, it's also for developers, for them to use. Developers are not designers. They won't tell you that this design looks good in this particular set. They will just say they did it the way you designed it, right? So when these developers are now designing your work for different screen sizes, they will always maintain that ratio. So whenever it's getting to that particular size, it will scale down. Instead of it just working in a different way, you can see the background, if you look at the height of this, is still maintaining that same ratio of that there. So it will scale down, data ratio based on the width of this. So it will always scale and adjust there. So if I'm increasing, you can see it's adjusting based on an aspect ratio. And this is what you need to use. I'm sure if this is looking like the YDX. So aspect ratio is one thing you need to use for designs. So if you notice this same image here, this particular image here with this text here, they are looking perfectly, not exactly the same size, but they look the same way for all screen sizes. And that's why, because they are in an aspect ratio, they need to, even when they are made smaller here, they are in an aspect ratio right now. And when you take them back to mobile, they're still in the same aspect ratio despite the size of that. So you need to understand all these things too. Then there is something called art directing images. Remember when I showed you stripe? So let's just go to stripe. Can you guys see stripe now? Can you guys see stripe? If you can see stripe, just say yes, please. Okay, thank you. So now we have stripe here, right? Now, what stripe did is that because as you're taking this, remember I told you there is an adaptive approach. This image is not scaling down, is not responding, right? So what they did is that once they get to smaller screen sizes, they direct their images. What I mean is that they will make decisions whether this image should be cropped, whether certain parts of it should be cropped out, or it should keep on showing the same way, or they should take it completely. And if you take it down to mobile, what happened? They completely took the image of this thing. It completely took the image of this the mobile design, and then as they keep on increasing the size, you now start showing parts of it till they get to a desktop size, and they show full parts of the image, right? So now they're showing full parts of the image. So this is what we call art direction in imagery. So do you guys get that? Please tell me you understand. If you're not getting anything, you can just say you don't understand, and I'll recap to you understand. You know, are you sure you understand? Because you guys have assignments to do. So if you don't understand, it's better you say you don't understand now. Oh, at least someone gets it. Well, its design was never pixel by I don't know if you guys want to become pixel pushers, be referred to as pixel pushers, or you want to be referred to as designers, web designers, then it depends on the amount of knowledge you have. So I think you guys need to understand it. So I would say evidently there have been decisions, debates whether designers should learn code or not. Why I would not say like all designers should learn code, I would say you should at least have an idea of how this thing works, because you're designing for people that code it. So you that is designing for people that you don't understand how it works on the front end, not even back end. Don't learn the back end. At least understand how the logic works. I don't know how to code, to be honest, but I understand how certain logic works, and that way I know how to design for specific things like that. So it's not the YDX. Design was never easy. Just because you pick this over front-end doesn't mean it's going to be, because you need to understand every single thing. So yeah, sure. So that is mostly what we have. I think that's mostly what we have today. So our time is already almost up. So so that's for today. So if you have any other question, you can ask. So tomorrow we'll continue again. Just a second, let me confirm if we're actually done for today. Yes, we are practically done for today. So tomorrow I will take you guys on the practical aspect, how you set up these things on Figma, and also talk about responsive grid and responsive typography, right? So that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. So if you have any questions, just please ask. And let's say I can easily recap before time's up. Please start asking all your questions. In fact, aspect ratio, yeah, good. Wow. Aspect ratio. What else again? What other question? I'm not giving an assignment. It's probably you should go and research, do more research on this stuff. Well, I'm not giving assignment today. So your assignments will be on Figma. You guys are going to submit a Figma file. Design, and you guys are going to do all these things. So no, the grids will be tomorrow. The grids, responsive grids. I will explain to you how you design adaptively and design for fluid stuff. So the grids will be tomorrow. I'll explain to you. You will see the practical of how you're going to do it. Not just because I've been saying it now, so you at least have an idea of some things are pushing and some are flowing back and forth. That's the main thing. But so that why are we using this and when are we going to use it? You want to ask this kind of questions. Grid points. Okay, I don't know what you mean by grid points. And layout grid. Layout grids is basically what you see on Figma. That's what they show for you on Figma. They are all grids, right? I think what you mean is is the 8-pixel grids and the normal column grids. Is that what you mean? Funny enough, the truth is answering Collins. I've actually searched for this stuff. It's actually tough to find a YouTube video with concrete details as this when it comes to responsive design. They don't usually tell you this much. Just tell you you design this for desktop and this for tablet and this for this. And then they push you out to the world and tell you to grab it to your developer. And then developers come back to us and start shouting that is what you did that we do, and then we start having this back and forth. So there are few though. Just a second. So okay, for the expand and what they call it. Okay, I'm going to recap on the aspect ratio. Just a second. So for the expand container, so I'll use a perfect example. I did say something about signups, right? When you click on sign up, specific sign up, you see something else and so on and so forth. So I think that would be the perfect way to explain this expand for you. So I think Stripe should have just sign up around. So they didn't place this in a container. Yeah. So I'm going to share this screen. Stripe. I think that's what they use, hopefully. Maybe it's time I switch. Okay, yeah. You're looking at this is Stripe. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Good. Now, this is based on expand now. Now, I told you this thing, you see this white box here, this is called a container, right? And I'll, before I even start explaining, are you guys familiar with the box model, the CSS box model? No, okay, good. Okay, I think that's where the problem is. Okay, good, someone is familiar with it. Right. Now, basically, everything is a box. Like, if you're using the CSS box model and everything is a box and all this kind of stuff. But since you guys don't understand box model, okay, yeah, at least you have an idea of it. So, but that's not a thing, yeah. So, but you see this white box here, this is the container, right? If you've read material design, right, that would be your assignment. Thanks for asking. That would be the box model will be your assignment. If you've read material design, you understand what a surface is. So basically, surfaces are just containers that can that content will sit on. That is what a surface is. That is what this white box is. It's where content will sit on. Now, why do you put why now? What does this thing mean when I say expand, right? Wow. I think I actually need to use a proper mobile screen now. Now, generally, now normally, which this thing is it's not acting the way it's supposed is the way it's supposed to act. Generally, when you're on mobile, you won't have this thing this way anymore. You won't have this thing on any surface or mobile. For example, let's take for instance Google sign up when you're like setting up your oh, that's actually a perfect example. When you're setting up when you're trying to sign in on Google, you notice that on your mobile phone, it is on a plain white surface where um you can actually set your inputs and everything now. It's on a plain white background, right? Now, but when you're getting to larger screens, these contents right here, they are too small for you to what they call it, for you to expand them, you start expanding all these things. They are too small for you to fit them on a wider screen. So you need to put them in a box, right? And set that box to a particular width. Now, the box is basically trying to making sure is to give that sense of expansion without actually expanding the content. So the contents here, they are still remaining the same, but then now you have something here that helps you feel the width of the whole screen. That's the whole idea of expanding something, because you're getting from mobile to desktop. This content, if you're putting it on desktop, it feels empty. It feels like there's nothing there, and it feels boring to some point. So now you can't make that content feel from one end to the other end, right? I told you this is a responsive pattern. So what you do is that you put it inside a box, give that box a shadow, right? So it offsets around the background, just the same way they did it. Now, this is then that way, once you're scaling, once you're getting or increasing the width, the box to some points, in some cases, the box, in this case here, the box was very, very small here. And if you're getting to a wider screen, the box keep on expanding, right? It will keep on expanding, remaining at the center. I can say the box have expanded to some points here. And this is the maximum width for the box, right? So this is what expand means. You put it in a container, and then the container expands to a particular point and sets a max width on it. So I don't know if you get that. Oh, during the practical, you understand most of these things. I think we'll treat that soon. So any other question? aspect ratio. So now the idea of, as I told you, aspect ratio are mostly for images, right? So instead of a case where you be giving, you put because designers generally newbies that don't understand how how responsive design works will just set up a random image size and just let it go like that on their design. They just draw one rectangle like that and say this is for image. But that's not how it's supposed to be done. Generally, you need a very, very calculative size for images. I remember one time a colleague of mine was stuck in creating an hero page, and she found that the hero page, the image size was too big, and at some point it was too small. So she didn't know what to do.
Sorry, Emmanuel, are you still there? Hello? Can anyone still hear me? So, I think today's class was plagued with a lot of network issues, and we must just accept the fact that we're in Nigeria and Starlink never reach our side. Hopefully, we get Starlink very soon. By the time all of you, we launch you guys and you start your careers, you make a lot of money and you come and make Nigeria a better place and probably give us Starlinks. At least every church should have one Starlink router, every park should have, and then we end up having a better Nigeria with better network. Okay, Kidebere, you say you want Japa. If you Japa finish, you're still Nigerian. No? By the time you go there, they'll still call you Nigerian. So thanks for coming to today's class. Any other question you have? Okay, Emmanuel is back. We have less than 5 minutes to address any other question anyone has. All these hands raised. I am Abba, Musa, Ezekiel, and Igwe. Can you type your